Wi-Fi 7, I would use that for density purposes, bringing in a lot of bandwidth and density. One thing that's really great about Wi-Fi is everything has Wi-Fi, so it's cost effective right off the bat. It's part of the ecosystem in the beginning. Where 5G, I'm going to start looking at that from a deterministic perspective for mobility and mission critical uptime.
Hey, this is Martha DeGrasse here again for Wi-Fi Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us on The Signal. If this is your first time listening, we are so glad you're here. We try to deliver insight and perspective on the growing portfolio of Wi-Fi technologies that we see changing the connectivity landscape. And if you are familiar with our podcast, please take a minute to rate and review on your favorite podcast app. We would really appreciate it. This week, we are going to be learning about Wi-Fi 7 and 5G with Bill Krutke. He is a solutions architect at StepCG. Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Hey there, Martha. How you doing?
Great. So you came to StepCG from a long background in the healthcare industry. So give us a little bit of background on Wi-Fi and healthcare and how you've parlayed that into what you're doing today.
Yeah, Wi-Fi in healthcare is very difficult to manage. Everything about healthcare is about workflow, and it's about efficiency of that workflow for our nurses, our doctors, and physicians. Any disruption in that workflow really slows that down. A lot of devices, a lot of capability, because really that's what it is. It's all about being mobile over there. So you run into a lot of different issues from a healthcare perspective.
Yeah, and there's no room for error because the stakes are pretty high. So I think you were telling me before we started that if you can do Wi-Fi in a healthcare setting, you can do Wi-Fi anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so I worked for a top 5 healthcare organization, and I was there for 15 years as a technical solution architect, leading basically enterprise Wi-Fi design across multiple hospitals, clinics, as well as even senior living places. So those are different types of mobility, and those are different types of devices that you usually have to work with. So going through there's a lot of different types of devices, how you utilize them, what they're going to be in this type of building, that mobility path, and just really kind of freeing up that spot, especially when public network is super important for healthcare.
Right. And Wi-Fi 7, I'm sure, is making a difference.
Oh, it's making a huge difference. Wi-Fi 6 was great. It made a big difference, but Wi-Fi 7 it's going to give us that redundancy capability that we're really looking for in healthcare. It also will bring a lot of IoT capability that we really needed there.
Got it. Okay, and at StepCG, I think you all have quite a number of manufacturing clients, factory automation projects. Tell us a little bit about that and the role that Wi-Fi 7 plays there.
Wi-Fi 7, since we're able to use multiple bands now with Wi-Fi 6 and 6E7, so I should say 6E7, this became where, okay, that's nice, but I'm just roaming between those bands right there. How do I actually get to utilize them at the same time, with that capability that Wi-Fi 7 has with multi-link operation? That's huge. It's a huge benefit, especially when you start talking about machine vision. This is those type of devices that you need to basically pay attention to what's in front of you and make sure that there is no issue at all, no problem. We've been dealing with a lot of camera AI capabilities that are really kind of coming out there. So those safety pieces do become mission critical for the manufacturing area. And manufacturing is constantly moving, just like healthcare. So since it's always retooling itself, I would be the same thing.
Okay, so with AI cameras, I'm guessing that there's a lot of actually on-device analysis that's going on, and maybe even some real-time deterministic capabilities telling people on the factory floor what they need to do, or even telling robots on the factory floor what they need to do based on the learnings from that video, right?
Correct. I mean, there's that, and then there's also predictability. So AI is actually, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Just a slight different change there is a probability of something that's going to happen. So a lot of AI cameras are actually looking towards that perspective from a safety perspective.
Okay. So, it all adds up to a lot of time-sensitive traffic, I think. So I'm thinking that the target wait time or the restricted target wait time makes a difference, right?
Oh, restricted target wait time. I like restricted target wait time. It's so cool because, when we first had target wait time in Wi-Fi 6, first of all, that was awesome. It was a beautiful way to save battery. But the problem is that there was no coordination. And restrictive target wait time really brings in that coordination capability as well as identify it with a traffic identifier. And it's mind-boggling that, hey, now I got quality of service based off of my wait time. So that's even awesome. So there's coordination to where there's less collisions going forward. It's a huge difference.
Okay.
Big impact.
Okay, great. And the last technical feature I want to ask you about with Wi-Fi 7 is OFDMA, orthogonal frequency division multiplexing.
Yeah, I always like this one. Best way that I like to describe OFDMA is, you know how when you go to the grocery store, you always had the lines that you always went through to go get bagged up, right? And then they came out with the self-checking bag. OFDMA was really nice because then you were able to go to the self-checking spot. You waited until you got your number. But when you see this enhancement that Wi-Fi 7 brings, it's even better. They bring this multi-resource unit capability. So it's almost like you get assigned, but you actually get assigned to resource units. So in case one does suffer, you can flip over to the other.
So OFDMA is a technology that's also part of 5G, right?
Right.
Are there specific workloads that lean more toward Wi-Fi 7 versus private 5G?
Yeah, there actually is specific workloads that do kind of go between each other. You know, basically it comes down to the type of application that you utilize. But I like to start to really kind of explain what Wi-Fi is as well as 5G and how they're different. The best way that I can do is analogies. And I like the idea of the parent and child with Wi-Fi, right? So the parent is the AP, the child is the device. And the parent has all these features and these capabilities that is guidance and is helpful for the child, which is the device. And the smartest thing on the wireless is always the device, just like the smartest in the family is the kid. So basically that conversation, the child decides how it's going to communicate. So you actually see this from a device perspective. You actually can take a capture and see the radio tab come across, and you see all the capabilities that the AP is providing to the device, and the device picks. It says, hey, I'm going to go by a 1x1 communication versus a 2x2 at this point for this packet. It's at this RU, it's at this NCS, it's all of those things. It chooses how it's going to communicate to the access point, where 5G has this coach type of feel to it. It's like an undefeated NFL team, and it's very deterministic. You got to run this play. This is how this play is done. This is how it's going to get done. You must go this way. You must go this way. Block that one. Do that one. And we have to go to the next play right after that. There is no if, ands, or buts, and you're going to follow the play. That's usually how that kind of goes. And when I look at that from a workload perspective, I'm thinking, you know, Wi-Fi 7, I would use that for density purposes, bringing in a lot of bandwidth and density. One thing that's really great about Wi-Fi is everything has Wi-Fi, so it's cost effective right off the bat. You know, it's part of the ecosystem in the beginning. Where 5G, I'm going to start looking at that from a deterministic perspective, from mobility and mission critical uptime.
Okay, excellent. So it seems like that Wi-Fi 7 and 5G are very complementary.
Very complementary to each other. It gives you that second factor on the floor right off the bat, right? Wi-Fi 7 is going to carry the masses. Thousands of devices are able to do that. Everybody wants Wi-Fi, and they want Wi-Fi reliable. I've never seen a Google review that actually said, we have bad 5G here. I've always seen we have bad Wi-Fi there, you know, where private 5G, it's going to carry the few. And I see that on factories like robots and as well as in healthcare robots. From a roaming perspective, voice alarms, that can be in hospitals as well as in factories too. But I look at that from them two being complementary is very similar to an airport. Airport security line, you walk in there, general population goes into that security section where they have to pop up more spots when it gets too full, and it, you know, you need to go really fast. Where 5G is like that TSA pre-check, right? A few people go through it, but guaranteed to smooth passage, always expecting, always guarantee the way that it was supposed to go no matter what. And where Wi-Fi 7 will bring in is just that maybe I don't have to take off my shoes and my belt for this time, right? And I can go a little bit faster off of there.
All right, let's talk about from an organizational planning point of view. What factors do organizations need to consider with Wi-Fi 7 in particular from a legacy device perspective?
It is not a rip and place. It is a phased approach. It is an adoption approach. And today, legacy, I don't see a lot of ABG. So I don't see a lot of that happening in a lot of factories or healthcare these days. If there is, it's because they haven't upgraded their system to see that they didn't anymore. They don't have that opportunity. The biggest thing is bringing in the 6 gigahertz. If you haven't moved to a 6E type of solution, that's going to be an architecture piece that you're going to have to do. but otherwise a lot of AX and a lot of AC out there. So when bringing in Wi-Fi 7, it's an enhancement capable, but also think about the features that you can do on Wi-Fi 7 from an adoption perspective. You can still have all your legacy in one area, and that's how it's going to be done based off of that WLAN architecture that you're going to utilize. But at the same time, maybe I do have this section here that is very XR savvy, and I need that 320. I need that high bandwidth capability off of that. It gives you that flexibility to do that, as well as still maintain some of your legacy solutions that are out there.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, are there any, in either healthcare or manufacturing, are there any new IoT devices or applications that you're seeing with Wi-Fi 7 that are going to make a big difference?
XR systems, basically anything with AR, especially MR. I've been seeing a lot of the mixed reality solutioning from a training perspective in both areas. This is becoming something that helps with the communication, but also helps train people faster and able to do the right job at the right time, just to make sure that they're doing the same thing over and over again and being monitored off of that too.
That's great. So physicians and nurses use it for training as well as people on the manufacturing floors?
Yeah, surgical training is one of those biggest ones. Not every surgeon has the same way they do it. They learn it from that way. So it's pretty remarkable to kind of see it where they're actually using these reality solutions, and they're actually making the same type of moves, the same types of decision that everybody else is doing. That is helpful from a training perspective, but it's also helpful for when you have one of those very high-skilled surgeries that you really need to be careful on.
Right. Okay. And you mentioned AI earlier in the context of video. Are there any other AI applications that have caught your eye?
I think the predictability from a video from an AI has been remarkable from video, even from an infrastructure perspective too. You see the same thing over and over again. There's going to be a probability that this is going to be a problem, or this is always good. I really like the video part because it adds massive safety factor to it, right? In healthcare as well as in manufacturing, definitely in manufacturing, but that's something that's needed because sometimes what my pair of eyes looks at is maybe not what somebody else's eyes see. AI and that information is huge benefit to really keep people alert and aware.
Yeah, that's great. I'm thinking there's probably a tremendous amount of bandwidth moving across these networks if they're moving video back and forth and analyzing it. Yeah. Can you give us some numbers?
I have seen, if you're going straight MR, expect the downlink to be 100 to 200 just per device. From a downlink, uplink up to 60. When you start talking AR, you're a little lower because AR can pretty much run on LTE alone, right? We've all had AR out there for that. But when you start moving things to the cloud narrative, so MR is very heavy. But when you start moving things to the cloud, it's always going to be heavy. This is cloud AR, cloud XR, cloud MR type of solutions out there that really become very heavy because it's coming down and it's coming up at the same time. They got to see exactly what's happening in real time, and that's what you're trying to get to. So it's a huge amount of bandwidth that comes across.
And do you have a lot of clients?
It's a very challenging. Not a lot of clients. We are dealing with one client right now that is playing a lot with that. Back and forth between, which ones do we utilize from an LTE perspective versus which ones do we utilize from Wi-Fi. That comes back to mobility patterns and type of workflow that you're expecting. But it also comes down to the application.
All right. Excellent. Bill Krutke, Solutions Architect at StepCG. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. And that is our show. If you haven't already, be sure to follow The Signal on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you've been hearing, we hope you'll take a moment to rate and review The Signal. I'm Martha DeGrasse, here for the Wi-Fi Alliance. Please join us next time on The Signal.